The Skyline. Hyped, lusted after, lied about, feared, envied, dangerous, and mysterious. 30 years after its discontinuation, the R32 Skyline is one of the most influential cars in North America, and it was never sold here. Here it is, October's giveaway. Yes, Justin found an R32 that's not a drift missile. All it has is aftermarket suspension, real two-piece Nismo wheels, an uncracked dash, and no silly HID headlights. Click on the link in the description and go to go.getentertowin.com/regularcars. Buy a mug or a digital download, and one of you is going to win your very own Skyline. I swear, Justin Bernash is throwing me challenges. I just got done calling last month's Holden GTO a Skyline killer, and guess what? Here's a Skyline. Go to go.getentertowin.com/regularcars, buy a mug or a digital download, and one of you is going to win this car and experience what the hype is all about. Here we go. My favorite thing in the world, hill climbs. No one on the road. Look at it. Look how fast it gains revs. 7,000 RPM plus a turbo. This thing is 30 years old and there's no hiccups. This is brilliant. I didn't even need fifth there. Woo-hoo-hoo. The R32 Skyline became legal to import into the United States in 2018 for the 1989 model year. But online media was awash with low-resolution mini-DV and digicam footage of the R32s ever since iMesh, Morpheus, and LimeWire picked up the slack in the wake of Napster. There were videos with titles like Illegal Street Race.avi, Japanese Drifting Real.wmv, Skyline Torg Initial D Real Life.mov. DVD-Rs and DVD+Rs were sold and shared. They featured live-for-the-day rich American teens driving R32 Skylines clandestinely imported through Florida's easily manipulated and archaic DMV system. Titled as Nissan 240s and bearing whatever year model necessary to make them older than 25 years, those forged document Skylines ripped across cathode ray tube TVs and computer monitors, exciting young car enthusiasts. The car seemed unstoppable, unbeatable. There we saw street racing like we never thought we would. Cars that were all different and making strange whooshing noises. They were all fast. But in all of those compressed 240p resolution artifact-laden videos, in all of them there was one constant. Evil, quad, circular taillights, crimson and haunting. They shone through 1990s streets, lit by sodium vapor street lamps and the glow of video arcades. Those backwards staring red eyes told anybody within visual range, you're about to lose. because this Skyline is 30 years old in 2023, and we're still talking about R32 Skylines like they're new. Why? Well, they're still low mileage for 90s cars. They were only legal in the United States starting in 2018, and the R32 Skyline was the harbinger of JDM import culture in the United States. My Sarah, my Pow, Tony's fire truck, Renee's Vivio, all cheap imports because everybody else was paying baller money for R32s in the late teens. Those with money back then bought Skylines and immediately drove them right into our DMs and Discord groups, interrupting everybody sharing VCL porn with each other. 1993 Nissan Skyline R32 GTS-T Type M, or is it M-Type? 60th Anniversary Edition. That's a name. Attention! Attention! If you did not recognize by my right-hand drive steering wheel, listen to this. And if that isn't enough, look below. It's my extra tiny bulge. And I'm not hard. Because you're not looking. Look at my Skyline and then I'll get hard. Hold up your phone and then I'll pre. Ask me how fast it goes, and I'll lie. And bust. My Skyline goes 190 miles an hour, and a dark stain is spreading. I'm a different character now. Oh man, I gotta go. I'm late for my job my dad got me. I drive a Skyline and my girlfriend can't wipe herself. Her name's Samantha. She answers phones at the urgent care. I saw her punch a senior citizen once. I drive a Skyline. I'm a Twitch streamer. I play Burnout Paradise to the same 17 people. Follow me on Twitch at Godzilla Ass Jewel. One night I drank a bottle of Ouzo and burned all my parents' baby photos of me. I replaced them with Call of Duty screenshots. I have a ship happen sticker even though I go to Millersville. I encourage my girlfriend to get an OnlyFans so we can save up a trip for Tokyo. As long as she has feet, I'll never be homeless. I watch Adam LZ while she cams. I sold my Camry that my grandfather gave me, and all my airsofts, and a pair of Modern Warfare 2 Prestige Edition night vision goggles, and a JanSport backpack full of counterfeit Jordans to buy this Skyline. In video games, this is the car the computer uses to beat you. And it always beats you during your last lap. I hated Skylines before I even knew what they really were. Because the second you started modifying your entry-level car in Gran Turismo, Skyline started showing up and winning. The computer always used Skylines, and it was always the last lap. It would suddenly get cheat speed and fly past you with two wheels in the dirt. And when you drive a Skyline in real life, you get that feeling of impending destruction as the ceramic turbo spools up. To pass, and I will like third gear for this, and we go. Yeah, I'm in my Prelude in Gran Turismo, my 4th gen Prelude, and I'm about to win the race. Because I raced at 10 tenths and I got a good race going, but here comes the computer Skyline on the back stretch, and congratulations, I got 2nd place again. But in real life, a Skyline doesn't feel evil like it did in the games. The steering is neutral, it just feels like a steering wheel. The shifter is Honda adjacent, 2 fingers, you can move it. It's direct, it's solid. Now the high CAS is disabled. This R32 GTS-T, that's the 2-liter single turbo one, has 4-wheel steering. The rear wheels have the ability to steer. Now, Hi-Cast is very different from Honda's with the 3rd Gen Prelude. Those were mechanical steering. This is electro-hydraulic. There's a steering rack backed by the rear diff. The Skyline's rear steering isn't as aggressive as Honda was doing in the 80s and 90s. And it's supposed to work without you thinking. But while Honda drivers kept their 4-wheel steering, a lot of Skyline people got rid of it. As suspensions were changed and as people went for more power, Hi-Cast became a liability. And a lot of them were disabled, and this R32 is no different. And now that this car is in North America, maybe it's for the best. We don't do 4-wheel steering like Japan does, and God forbid if you have to get this car aligned. A shop may roll up on this and say, oh, by the way, the rear steer too. They may just go, nope, get it out of here, get it off the lift, we can't even deal with this. So even though you have Hi-Cast on the dash, a little light lights up, these rear wheels aren't turning. It's just a regular car now. If you're going to rev match this like a Honda, that's going to depend on where you are in the turbo boost. If you can drive these things without getting into the boost, I mean, they're going to be kind of dog slow when it does that. It's bleh. This still is a 2-liter 6-cylinder. Those pistons are tiny. And if you're just putzing around town, fine, you don't need boost. But if you really want to accelerate, you get it up above 4,000 RPM, and then that switch happens, and then you get boost. And that's what's exciting about it. This car has 2 modes. Gas-saving mode, and holy crap, here comes the turbo. And that's the excitement. That's what makes Skyline so alive. There's nothing, holy crap. And it's way more aggressive than a 4th Gen Super, which is interesting because the 2Js in 4th Gens were 3 liters. This is less than that. I know the GTRs are 2.5, 2.6, but this is the 2-liter. But still, it's like, whoa, this is getting away from me. Nissan Skyline R32. For posting up in an active parking garage at 8:30 p.m. on a Saturday night to get pictures for the gram because you want that urban look without actually going into the city. But then you get mad that people have the nerve to ruin your shot with their headlights as they're trying to leave. The narrative is flipped. It feels like the younger version of the R33 and the R34. The R32 is a shock of blonde hair under a tipped cap with a flat brim and a gold label, ready to throw down outside a quick check at 2:30 in the goddamn morning. Because he's got something to prove to his father who is in the metal clink. It's inadequacy as a stat boost. Because you're going to show up and show the John Cruck out when you're pulling up in an R32. This is the 8th generation of the Skyline, and the Type M designation means larger brakes, a viscous limited slip as standard, and this one has Hi-Cast, climate control, and fog lights. And on top of that, this is the 60th anniversary edition, so ooh, you get stuff like 16-inch wheels, which this no longer has. This has the real Nismo 2-pieces, plus velour upholstery. Kind of feels like Alcantara to me. And what Nissan called superfine coating, which I'm guessing is clear coat. It just reads like casting couch verbiage. And yes, if you wanted to get a case of the rares, this is also one of 2,831 units built, and this was the last production year for the GTS-T, and it's one of the few to come finished in crystal white 326. It has all the bells and whistles of the most obnoxious people at every car show. You know, the ones who believe the less accessible a car is to the average person, the greater their social capital. When in reality, the majority of people simply don't care, because it's just not that deep. People see this car and they just think Skyline. They don't think R32, R33, or as yet in 2023, yet to be imported R34. And what's wild is that the rare culture tends to be the domain of the boomer and the elder Gen X. But you start to see it in millennials and Gen Zs who get their hands on import cars, and frequent spaces in the car community to which no modern Nissan could have gained access to before. Here's something interesting. Out of all the cars I've driven, this is the only one that gets recognized for what it is everywhere I go. I was at the gym last night, the last night to this recording, and I was stopped 3 times while working out indoors by teenagers saying, "Is that your Skyline out front?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Can we take pictures with it?" And I said, "Sure. And you want to go for a ride in it once I'm done here?" And they went, "Oh!" And I'm thinking, this is a 30-year-old car. This is a classic car. I've driven Skylines before. I know they're not really that special in the eyes of the world, and yet people much younger than me are looking at this and thinking, this is amazing. I've never seen one before. And I'm thinking, really? Skylines have been around since 2018. I asked one young person, how old are you? And he said, I'm 17. And I asked him, how long have you known about Skylines? And he said, well, about 3 years now. And I said, so that means you were 15 when you first heard of Skylines. And he's like, yeah, that sounds right. And I asked him, well, where did you hear about them first? And he said, Fast and the Furious. I'm like, interesting. They were never really the hero car. Well, I didn't see Tokyo Drift. Was that it? Nissan Skyline R32 GTS-T, the official car of not safe for work ringtones. Is that the sound of someone stirring tuna casserole? A fish getting slapped against the sheet of particle board? That must be my insurance agent calling about that settlement I agreed to. You ever read the work of John Keats? You know, Beauty is Truth, Truth Beauty, or The Poetry of Earth is Never Dead? That guy? He had this idea called negative capability. Negative capability. I'm going to need you to just ride with me on this one, because for all the literary theory we do, this probably has the easiest connection to cars. Negative capability was a belief that encouraged artists to appreciate the beauty of a work without overthinking it. To put it more directly, Keats would write that negative capability is when man is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, and doubts without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. Bystanders who view this car in the wild when I'm driving it can't seem to differentiate between R32, R33, and, as yet to be legal in 2023, R34. They just see the word on the back, Skyline, they see the quad rear tail lamps, they see the notchback shape, and they think, desire. They're not going any deeper. Even though there's like 220 versions of this car, to people in the United States, this just means cool. The world is an uncertain place, and that means in the search for intellectual certainty, we end up missing the forest for the detritus. In breaking down all the different types of skylines, we miss out on beauty because we're too busy trying to make a random world make sense. It's racking your brain trying to figure out why Lexus built the LFA, a car that was never going to turn a profit and never live longer than a couple of years at most, instead of just driving the damn thing and enjoying it. Uncertainty begets curiosity, which begets creativity, and open minds to stay open. The R32 is still relevant because the word skyline is relevant. But what Keats never talked about is that anyone who uses negative capability basically has a superpower at their disposal, because there's no way you can drive an R32 and just ignore the critical parts of your brain, to just accept this car the way it is without intellectual investigation. The R32 Skyline dances on the edge of negative capability. It doesn't provoke deeper insight because it doesn't demand it. I'm a cool car. That's it. For 30 years, I've been cool and desirable, eternally youthful, and culturally relevant, and despite the decades, I remain so. Of course, you have to ask yourself how much the 60th anniversary and Type M and GTS-T hoopla makes up for this not being the R34. Easy. We just got done talking about this. It's the word on the back. Skyline. That's all. But turbo noises help, don't they? Well, this has it. This is running on the 2-liter RB20 DET engine. Nissan designations are easy. RB for the famous engine family that was derived from the 6-cylinder L20A engines from the mid-60s. The 20 is for the displacement, 2 liters obviously. The D is for dual overhead cams. The E is for electronic fuel injection. And the T is for turbo. 1 turbo. If it had 2 T's, that would have been the twin turbo version of this. Now, while this takes a 60 horsepower hit in comparison to the all-wheel drive GTR, the fact that it doesn't have the all-wheel drive system means the GTS-T is lighter by about 3,000 pounds. Now, this is probably also lighter by another 20 kilos. I'm just remembering the forms. The people who take out high cast and take out all the tubing, that also is weight reduction, bro, so this is lighter than that. Now on paper it says it makes 212 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and only 195 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM. But you can find me a stack of gently used Bibles and I'm willing to swear on each one of them that this is making more because of course it is. Nissan, as well as all the other Japanese manufacturers, underrated their engines per some gentleman's agreement. This is more than that. I don't have a dyno near me, but this is a lot more than 212. It pulls like a rickshaw being operated by an Adderall-fueled grad student on his 6th Red Bull. It's a small car with go-getter attitude, like the slacker son of a rich guy who makes a business proposal to his dad that's basically just, let me run a strip club. I mean, it's probably not what Dad wanted, but at least he's putting down the whippets and showing initiative. And be honest, while you could argue for the GTR taking a dump all over this, I would question whether it's worth the price tag that appraisal sites would have you believe are twice as expensive as the GTS-T, just to have some GTR badging, another turbo, and a couple extra horsepower, and yeah, maybe a little bit of wide body flaring in the rear. Is anybody that horny for clout at Katie's Cars and Coffee? Is the Discord chat you're using in place of therapy actually going to know the difference? No, because everybody I've run into says, is that a Skyline? Not, is that a GTR? But you can still hold your head up high because you know this is not a GTS. We've seen those people with Skylines who are rolling around with the naturally aspirated ones and we're like, ha ha. Ooh, is that no, is that the turbo? Oh, you're two-stepping. You don't have a turbo, do you? Now, granted, engine swaps abound, of course. And once that turbo spools, it gets to redline with the short-stroke, high-revving enthusiasm of a guy who puts professional esports athlete in his Twitter profile because he once got a $2 super chat streaming Spec Ops The Line. Because even a guy like that can drive a Skyline. Like one of those teenagers I ran into, I asked, can you drive stick? He says, yeah, I have a stick shift Honda. And I said, you can drive this. And he's like, no, I could never drive a Skyline. And I'm like, it's just a car. Until the turbo spools, it's going to feel like everything else. A Skyline is not just for guys who wear long shorts and longer hoodies and complain about being born on the wrong side of the Pacific. It's not just for people whose personality is, I wish I was alive in the 80s despite being 37 years old. The Skyline is as much for newcomers to discover their enthusiasm as it is for enthusiasts to maintain it. Maybe you want more performance, more style, or something that's simply more unique in your automotive life. Maybe you want more than to just be the guy popping weak sauce edibles and blasting Run the Jewels at 3 a.m. in the detached garage apartment. The Nissan R32 GTS-T is overlooked wish fulfillment because you probably never thought an R32 actually could fulfill any of your JDM desires. But it's built from before Nissan stopped caring, because Nissan used to care. They weren't all Rogues and Altimas and Muranos. There was a time when you could depend on Nissan the way you can depend on Toyota. The churn of the auto industry has been disheartening these past 2 years. This video is in 2023, so I'm talking about 2021. All Nissan has now is the new Z, which is the same as the old Z, just different looking. Hyundai is never going to make the Vision 74. And the only thing I'm getting interested in is Honda's revival of the Moto Compo, which may or may not be for sale. Everything is feeling like a service this year, like pure vapid product. That we're consumers whose value isn't in the opinions we share about our desires that then shape what automakers do, but the trends we're encouraged to chase with our dollar, which then creates new trends, each more cynical and cut rate than the last. Ooh, Corolla made an Apex edition. Is it faster? No, it just has some body panels. Soft limiters on performance cars, bigger grills, smaller steering wheels, touch screens, more sensitive than a theater kid. I get it. It's another appeal to the past being better, but that's not the case because I don't think I actually want to go back. I'll just get high and listen to Vaporwave because I like 2023. I like Bluetooth and CarPlay and Stavi's World. For all the nostalgia, it's best to leave the memories alone than to risk finding out it wasn't as great as you thought it was. But this one small detail in the world of automobiles, it feels like the same unending refrain is true. It's good now, but it was better back then. Cynicism still existed in the 90s, sure. We were still consumers who were only ever good for our paychecks and our sticker price gullibility. But at least in the 90s, it felt like everything was suffused with care and effort. Sometimes you look on the artifacts of the past with rose-colored glasses. But then there are those times, all too rare, when you find yourself in a 30-year-old car, looking at a rose-tinted world through bare eyes. Click on the link in the description. Go to go.getenteredtowin.com/regularcars. Buy a mug or a digital download. And you too can see the world that way, in your very own Nissan Skyline GTS-T Turbo.
Yeah, our speed limit drops.